Okay, I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of City Council for Monday, January 27th, 2020. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Scouts, will you lead us?
Scouts? Can we get a scout salute? Ready? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Scouts. Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Roland.
Here.
Bizzard.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
Wise.
Here.
Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Now I'm looking for approval of the agenda for this evening unless any council member has changes or notations they'd like to make.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have an opportunity for audience participation. If there's anybody in the audience that wanted to come forward and ask a question, and you are limited on time. So, yes, I have an adult in the back. Can you come forward to the podium, state your name and your address, please, so that we have that for records. Thank you. Right there. Oh, no.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's supposed to go the other way, isn't it? I'm Sandra Helserman. I'm actually here on behalf of Alyssa Slotkin, on behalf of Christina Like, who would like to run for the position now held by Alyssa Slotkin, the 8th District, which includes Ingham County, Livingston County, and the northern part of Oakland. I'm here representing her because she needs to get her name out. She is a hometown girl. She was born and raised in Pinckney. She lives in Fowlerville. She has a law firm in East Lansing at this time, and she is pro-life. She is pro-Second Amendment. She wants to bring honesty and the rule of law back to Washington, which is a big job, but she is really willing to be honest and to fight for that. She'd like to fight for you. We'd appreciate your vote on August 4th in the primary. There are 5 people running, and we're supporting her, and she says hi to you all. She'd be here if she could. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Why?
Anyone else during audience participation that would like to come forward? Yes?
So I just want to say thank you to the mayor and the city council for letting our Cub Scouts come in and see how the city runs and meeting you guys and answering our questions, and we really appreciate it. Helps these scouts get some loops to advance in their rank, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
All right, Scouts, if we wanted to take off now, would be a good time to do it and
Well,
free up
we
some
will.
seats. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now we can.
All right. Moving forward, I'm looking for approval of council meeting minutes of January 13th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve council meeting minutes for January 13th of 2020.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Now we have accounts payable note.
I had a chance to review the accounts payable. Everything matched to the billing. So I'd like to make a motion to approve checks 72747 through 72820 in the total value of $767,549.80. And I open the floor for any questions relating to any of the bills that either Cory would like to answer or that I can answer.
All right. Any questions regarding payables? No?
No.
All right. Thank you. Do I have a second on the accounts payable?
Second.
All right, thank you. Holly?
Wise.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Bizzard.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, moving right along to our action items for this evening. We've got a couple items here that we need to give some attention to. The first is consideration of Sowing Growth raffle license resolution. So the one question I do have is, the form is pretty empty. Do we know what they're planning on doing? Jane Reagan, step up, come on down. Thank you for being here
Hi,
this
council
evening.
members. I'm Jane Reagan. I'm a member of the board of the Sowing Growth Organization. It runs the Eastern Ingham Farmers Market that's held in Williamston in the May through October in the summer. So this raffle is gonna be a 50-50 raffle during our food truck throwdown. We are asking in another request that we be allowed to use the McCormick Park parking lot for the 4th annual food truck throwdown, which the previous 3 have appealed to 2,000 to 5,000 people streaming in for, we hope to have a minimum of 10 food trucks, which is general, we've had 8 to 12 in the previous 3 events. And it's our biggest fundraiser of the year.
It is.
So,
I'm
Friday-
so excited to see it coming back to
Good,
McCormick.
that's good. Friday, June 5, that evening. Mark your calendars.
Awesome. I think that's gonna be just so great. I know that it's been successful the past 3 years.
It's
so-
just amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
So we hope to have 2 food truck events this summer, so.
Excellent. All right, so for a 50-50 raffle. Questions for Jane?
Is this gonna be a 50-50 for just this one, or one event, or is there gonna?
Just this one event at this time.
Okay.
This is our first raffle, so we're gonna start nice and slow.
Sure.
And then maybe at our next event, which probably will be in August, we haven't set a date yet for that other food truck event. We would have to do the same thing.
Okay. All right.
Get them while their wallets are nice and warm.
Right. And they're enjoying some really good food. Any other questions for Jane?
Would, just one, for the food truck events, I think, they were at the Williamston Roadhouse facility last year. Is there gonna be a request for serving alcohol
No,
for this
it's just
food
too
truck?
much of a hassle.
All right,
It's not worth it.
thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I will entertain a motion for this then. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
I make a motion to approve the charitable gaming license for Sow and Growth's raffle.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Holly?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much for coming and bringing that information, something exciting to look forward to.
Thanks for your support.
And now we have the appointment of Robert DeGarmo to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire 1/1/2023. He serves as our chair currently, and if you would all put the word out that, I think we need a couple seats filled on CBA?
Board of Review.
Oh, Board of Review, sorry, Board of Review, which meets twice a year. But I'm looking for a motion to move his application forward.
I make a motion to approve Robert DeGarmo's appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire 1/1/23.
Thank you,
Support?
thank you. Holly?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Next is the Williamston Art Committee request for consideration of a resolution. And I believe, Holly, you can give us some great information on this. This is exciting.
So, we've written up the grant proposal for LEAP to consider for a $10,000 grant. The art committee has come up with a project that is not only for this year, but for the future as well. We wanna do murals on the sides of 4 of the buildings coming into downtown that will welcome people, because we currently do not have welcome signs for Williamston. And we thought this would be a really cool way to apply for our art grants, bring some culture to Williamston and welcome people to the downtown. So, it is due on Friday, and we've pretty much finalized everything, and I've worked with LEAP and the city manager, and
Excellent.
I think we got a good application this year.
Tell me what buildings have been identified.
For this one, we are looking at doing the bistro, beside the bistro.
All right, excellent. So that's gonna be down on South Putnam, coming north into town then. All
I
right.
think that's gonna make the biggest impact on people.
Yep.
And, they're really excited to also team up with us. So.
Great. Questions for Holly?
Are there matching funds that you have to raise to get to
Um,
that 10?
the grant will likely take care of everything. We kind of estimated everything out, so I don't know how much it's gonna cost.
Good work,
Yeah.
really good work. Any other questions?
The bistro's been reached out to on this
They
one.
actually have, we have a letter of support from them as well, and they're really excited about it.
Great. All right, I'm looking for a motion to move this forward.
I'll make a motion to support and apply for the public art grant through the Lansing Economic Area Partnership in conjunction with PNC BAG for the downtown mural project.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you for the support. Holly, will you call the roll?
Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Grimes,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, next we have the 2019 East Middle Street and South Mullet Street construction contract final. Scott?
Well, this is the final change order for that contract. It is from the original contract to the final numbers, it is a net of a decrease of $12,500 and some change.
Excellent.
So that's the big thing. This is inclusive of all other changes in quantities up and down and so forth. So contract one was up, change order one was way up, change order two came down. Three was an increase of 8 cents, but that was really because of the way computers round things off. And this last one is another net decrease, so.
Excellent.
Any questions in regards to the
I
project?
think the last final part of, we're done, right?
Yes.
Final asphalt, everything done, completed, okay?
There's just a look in the spring to make sure all the grass came up, and the contractor has provided us with a written assurance that if there's some reseeding, they'll take care of it without any extra.
Great, great project. Another improvement to our, our city surfaces, and thank you for all the good work. Question,
Top coat asphalt is in?
Yes.
all right? Any other
There-
questions for Scott?
Just so everybody knows, there was that issue with the gravel, and what the compromise was is they thickened the asphalt to come up with the structural number we needed because the gravel didn't meet specification. They did remove some of the gravel, so there's thinner gravel in there, but there's much thicker asphalt, so it still gives us the same strength of road.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to move this forward.
Motion to approve change order number one for the Williamston DDA parking lot project, authorize a net increase of $18,387. No, different one?
We're one before that.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I don't-
no, come back a couple pages.
I don't think, okay,
Hey,
move on.
nope.
Somebody else then.
Nope.
No?
You're almost
Nope.
there.
There, 2019 East Middle and South Mall.
Yeah, but it's this right here.
Right.
gentlemen.
I don't think.
Help him find that page.
Like 4 or 5.
Keep going backwards, keep going backwards.
I don't have.
No. Yeah, you guys do. Resolution for the art, right here.
Oh, yep.
Okay, you found it?
There it is.
All right, we do have one. Okay. Approval of the contract modification for final. All right, that's the one?
Yes.
All right, for the 2019 East Middle Street, South Mall Street, MDOT contract 33065-133147 for a net decrease in the amount of $28,025.46. Revise open to traffic date from 8/17/2019 to 10/12/2019, and revise contract completion date from 10/10/2019 to 11/9/2019. The new total contract amount, including all previous modifications, shall be $741,129.80, not to exceed.
Thank you,
Support.
thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Holly, will you call the roll?
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Grimes,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
All right, our last action item is on page 8E, page 1, and that is the DDA parking lot change order number 1. The one that you're starting to read.
Let me give this a whirl again here.
Corey, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
I would just note, in addition to the memo, the DDA did approve this, recommended it to council. This is sort of the final step to get council's approval since it is a contract.
All right, motion to approve change order number 1 for the Williamston DDA project parking lot project to authorize a net increase of $18,387.50 for the construction contract with TCI Incorporated of Michigan.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussions for Corey? Memo was very informative. We went through this at DDA. The last thing I believe that we're gonna be doing, once spring gets here, is that final top coat of asphalt. Other than that, the project went off, I really think flawlessly. It's been a huge improvement to the downtown district. And through DDA, we're starting to talk about other projects, other parking lots that need attention. And so this was definitely a good kickoff, in that area.
I'm just surprised that the color change was that expensive for the fence.
Yes, but Corey was able to
I understand
articulate
why.
it so well.
I understand.
It was really, I think a better choice to go with that cedar color. So if there's no questions or discussion or anything, I'm looking for that motion. Or no, I'm sorry, you motioned, you supported. Holly, call the roll.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's the conclusion of our action items. Did you have something else that you wanted to share?
Well, I should just apologize for not addressing you. I'm used to getting up and turning around to the audience.
No, you know what, that's okay, because we YouTube it now, so our YouTube audience will
I
get to
think
see
somebody
that,
wanted-
and I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you can stick around, I'd love to talk to you right afterward.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait for a few
Okay,
minutes.
all right.
That was why I hung on. I do apologize. My husband's a commissioner, I should know better, but I don't sit and watch what they do.
No, that's okay, feel free to have a seat while we finish up.
Okay.
Moving right along, we are going to go into our discussion items, which is economic development plan, and I believe Corey has a slide presentation for us.
Yeah, just a very brief.
So if anybody, council members, need to move so that you can see the screen, and
Hit the lights.
Dan, if you could pop the lights down.
That's probably good right there.
Yeah, thank you.
Turn the projector on.
I'll make this fairly brief, but wanted to introduce a policy topic that we are looking for some guidance on. So as this fires up, essentially what we're looking at today is the result of a couple of different things. So we've had several site selection processes involving our industrial park in the last year. We are in this redevelopment ready communities process. And then we've had a number of questions come up from developers, and that's perfect. So just to dive into these, the question is really, as we form an economic development strategy, which is a requirement of the redevelopment ready communities program, what are the policy decisions that we are going to make when it comes to economic development incentives and abatements. So just as a really brief refresher, the city council, about a year or so before I started here, so we're going on our second or third year of participating with LEAP, they just about once a month or so, they have site selection projects that they send out to all of their members. And they're usually something like what you see up here. $30 million investment, they need 2 to 5 acres of industrial land and a community that's has an openness to tax abatements. They're usually very vague, and you don't learn a lot about it until you get to the next step, which is they do a site visit. So these are 4 that we've submitted for that we either had land that fit the criteria or there was an existing facility. We don't have many, and we do include the buildings that are in the township that are served by city utilities. So like the last one is an example of that. So of these, project C and D have not yet made it to the site selection process, but the first 2, we did receive a site visit for both of those. In one case, they were a company from India, and another case, it was a Fortune 50 company from the South. And I know for sure that we were not selected for project B, and project A, we haven't yet heard the final results, although they were looking at a dozen or so sites. a couple months ago. And so you'll notice that there's a commonality where they're either looking for an openness to tax incentives, or they're looking for this information down here. You know, they want environmental reports, wetlands delineations, and geotechnical information on properties. The second piece of this is this redevelopment ready communities process, which we submitted a resolution a year ago to the state along with our evaluation forms, and we just got that back this year in early January. The RRC planner will be coming to the next council meeting to give a 10-minute presentation about our evaluation. But a big part of that is that redevelopment ready communities is trying to encourage consistency from community to community with how we deal with the private sector in development processes. A piece of that is this economic development strategy, which wants a vision and actions of how you are implementing your desired end game for your economic development. So when it comes to abatements and incentives, there's a very narrow scope of what we can offer. It's basically anything that the state of Michigan says that we can offer. And then at the local level, there are just a couple of things that we can do. So today, really the only existing tax abatements we have are these two industrial facilities exemptions. One is for Centurion in our industrial park, and the other one is for Midway, which is in the first phase of the industrial park. So both of those businesses have a 50% tax abatement. Industrial facilities exemptions can be granted for up to 12 years. And then at the local DDA level, we have a facade improvement program, which allows reimbursement of facade improvements up to 50%, and there's a max on what they can achieve. That program has been very successful.
Yes,
There's been a
yes.
lot of good work that's happened in the downtown, and even some of the turnover that we've had new building owners asking about that program. So that's been a good one for us. So at the state level, I talked a little bit about the industrial facilities exemption. There's really only two other abatement programs that apply. They are both dealing with either obsolete or blighted commercial property. There's probably just a couple examples of properties in town where that might work. And they're similar to the industrial facilities exemption in that they can be up to 12 years. One can be up to 12, one can be up to 10. And they also freeze the taxable value at the pre-new investment value. So in other words, if somebody's gonna take a blighted property and attempt to restore it, they will not pay the increased taxes of that restoration for so many years. So the piece of this that needs some policy guidance is the number of years. So this is an example, this table, of what some communities have done. So today, if an industrial company came to us and said, we want an industrial facilities exemption, there would be a process through city council to grant that. The one piece of that we control is, one, do we do it at all? But then two, if we do, the number of years. And so to try to give some clarity and guidance to that, you see a table like this. So if a company was coming in and gonna do a less than $500,000 project, according to a schedule that the city could create, they would be eligible for 1 year. And then depending on the number of jobs created, you can add additional years. And you can make that schedule work out so that everything is based on a criteria. Other incentives that are out there, again, it's fairly limited.
Can you go back one?
Yes,
So the top table is added and bottom?
correct. Yeah, and those are just two types of criteria. There are others that can be utilized.
This is just an example.
It's just like two
Right.
examples.
Right.
There's a similar process that can be used for utility connection or impact fees, which we do currently, we have impact fees. We do not offer any waivers or incentives on those, and frankly, there are pros and cons to doing that, just like with all these other ones. But that one does have a level of local control. And then the last one that would be eligible here is there's such thing as a brownfield TIF, or tax increment financing. Council may know that our DDA is funded through tax increment financing. A brownfield TIF is essentially a tax increment tool that is used for a specific blighted or environmentally contaminated site. Again, we have a lot of green fields in town, particularly as you get out to the highway. You know, your brownfields might be a former gas service station. So there certainly are a few of those in town. The last one I bring up, just as a note, there have been, you know, one or two developers that have asked about an obsolete property Rehabilitation Act tax abatement. It's sometimes called an OPRA. And we are not an eligible community, so the state of Michigan, the statute says which communities can do those. And they are considered core communities or county seats, and we've not fallen into either of those definitions. The neighborhood enterprise zone is one of the few abatements that is utilized for residential development, including single family. That's fairly rare to see that. Certainly some larger cities have used those. I just pointed out because on occasion we do get asked if we would support something like that, and you know, the answer is just simple, we're not eligible. So that's a very quick overview, and essentially what I'm looking for here is some discussion on whether or not there's a policy support for an abatement or incentive policy, and then if that's the case, you know, it would be up to staff to bring forward the parameters under which we would grant those or consider those. And I did put in there, the very last line is that you can tailor these to support a very specific development goal. And so I think for a lot of years, it's fair to say a development goal has been to locate businesses in the industrial park. And you saw with some of those LEAP site selection notices that typically these industrial facilities are asking for openness to tax abatements. And it'd be nice in going through those processes to be able to say definitively, this is our program, or, you know, we don't support that. And so, in that regard, I'm simply looking for any guidance on that. It would be staff's intent, if there is support, to pull together some existing resources and bring something forward that we could consider. But again, I just wanted to introduce the topic and go from there.
I think we've been doing some good work at trying to be more attractive out of the industrial park, especially with trying to change the, you know, be more amenable to parcel realignment. I know that was one of the big reasons why we joined LEAP, was they would act on our behalf and bring people out here and show them what Williamston, you know, the closeness to downtown Lansing, the manufacturing and everything, the edge of Ingham County. So I think we should keep moving that forward and try to come up with something. And Jeff, you had something.
Yeah, so the abatement you're referring to, is that just a state corporate tax? And can you describe what you mean by abatement specifically? Like, for example, in 2 years from now, if Williamston imposes, let's say, additional income tax, some sort of corporate tax, are they grandfathered out of that? So that sort of granularity I'm wondering.
Yeah, sure. So the tax abatements are strictly for property taxes. And what they do, like the industrial facilities exemption, for example, it cuts in half your property tax rate. So it's a 50% abatement, I guess, on your otherwise full tax rate. And again, that can be up to 12 years and depending on criteria. But it would not impact any other taxes, either at the state level or local level, other than property tax.
Yes.
Do you know of any communities that had similar policies, abatement policies, that were successful? And does it work?
I think that it's common for communities, if they're gonna do these things, to have it written down. I've certainly looked at a few examples from the city of Mason was one locally that's been trying to get this written down so that there's a clear guidance for folks. To measure the success, though, is a good question. So if you have a policy, the question would be, would you have had that development if not for the abatement? And that's a hard question to answer.
Because we have all the property there. I mean, it'd be great to fill it.
Right.
And if this was a conduit to do that, I'd be in support of it.
Yeah.
all day long.
is better than
Nothing.
zero.
Right.
And I'd be interested to know, you know, what has Delta Township done? Because I mean, there's so many manufacturers. I mean, I work right on the corner of Mount Hope Snow and Cranes, and I watch new buildings go up all the time. There's gotta be some type of incentive that's going on that's drawing them to that area, especially Canal Road, Kreitz Road, Mount Hope. I mean, that whole area is just constantly, you know, something new is going on. So I'd be interested to know, you know, do they have something in place? How has it worked?
Sure.
But I think the more attractive we can make that industrial park out there, just like Dan said, something's better than nothing. And I think we're on the right path. I'd just like to see that path get a little bit shorter. And,
We have two existing.
You already have two existing
right.
tax abatements.
What
Yeah,
did-
yeah.
What were the yearly structures that we gave those?
I believe those are both 12.
Those are both.
And I didn't say this up front, but what I've experienced is that in the absence of something that dictates how many you get, they ask for 12 and it's.
Right. So we need to we need to come up with something that we can look at as far as structure, so that way you have that tool to use. And right now you don't have that tool.
I guess I could see a scenario where, you know, we've done them before and somebody comes in and says, hey, we want to locate, we want 12 years.
Sure.
And I've got no, I mean, other than, well, you have to go to the council and they can consider it. But it's, I think, again, to the redevelopment ready's program, they want clear, concise, consistent. And so, you know, having something in writing, it doesn't have to be super
Right.
detailed, but it's a simple policy document that can help guide that.
Well, I think that's a good, I think we should, and that's a good continuous improvement on our part to give you guys the tools that you need.
I like the table example that you put up there of a dollar amount on the entire project, so that it sets goalposts. Okay, if you're a $250,000 project, you get 2 years.
Yeah.
If you're a $1 million project, you get 5 years. If you're a $5 million project, sure, we'll go the whole boat and
Right.
you get the 12 years. You know, here's the goalpost, here's what you can expect, you know,
And tie jobs to it too.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly, because MEDC, they have money out there. I mean, we are a part of, now it escapes me and I do this for a living. Anyways, when you have new jobs, you can actually, you know, get training dollars for those new positions. So I think that's, MNJTP, Michigan New Jobs Training Fund, sorry. So I think that's something that would be an incentive as well. John, you had something?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
And if, you know, if we land one of these at the end of the process, when it's all said and done, you know, all I's dotted, T's crossed, ask them, okay, would you have come without the abatement?
Sure.
Would you have come, so then we get a little feedback, and, you know, if they're honest, you know, that, who knows, but then it gives us a little feedback.
So I think the consensus is start putting something together for us to look at, right?
I've always wondered why we have this beautiful industrial park and it's sitting,
Yeah.
pretty vacant.
Yeah.
And we're between Lansing, off I-96 and,
I know, we are the gateway to Ingham County. I mean,
Wow,
really,
but
we're the
I know
empty.
Talking about the industrial park before, it comes down to lot size, I think was.
And
that
I
was
think
part of
we were able to fix that so that, you know, changes can be made, with parcels, right?
There's limitations as far as like where the wetlands are.
Right, right.
And that makes a big chunk of that difficult. You guys know, along Lynn Road there's a really large wetlands.
Yep.
And one of those projects, Project B that I referenced, that was a real limiting factor, because they had a building size and type they wanted to fit there, and due to the rectangular nature of the remaining parcels, it was tough for them to fit it exactly how they wanted to. So there was a green site in some other community, maybe Delta,
Yeah.
that had a nice big square,
Yeah.
it was just a little easier to fit there, so.
I would love to get an update from LEAP, possibly. You know, it'd be great to have them come back in and maybe just give us, you know, what's happening, what are they seeing, trends, you know.
It has been a couple of years since we went into the partnership with League.
Yep.
That was one of the questions I had when I was
Sure.
going through the bills. I saw we paid our yearly dues. I see, you know, from this, it sounds like we're getting some good feedback, but everybody, it's a good partnership. We like it.
Well, and hopefully that partnership is us going and telling them, hey, here's what we're gonna do to make us more attractive. Lee, what else could we do? I mean, the working partnership, you know,
Sure.
I think is really important.
I would say in a year and a half or so working with them, it's been great. You know, the fact that we've had 2 of these site visits, you know, I think that's been a really positive indicator, because I think for a long time we weren't getting those. And so there's been a good communication. They know what we're trying to do, both out at the industrial park, but also in our downtown. One thing I will point out, it's in my manager update, but it has a relationship to this discussion, is there's a grant that just got announced called the Michigan Site Readiness Grant, and LEAP was influential in bringing 4 of those grants to our area last year. The amount of things that grant funded for shocked me a little bit. I mean, they paid for hard infrastructure in some cases. They paid for some of those reports that you saw, wetlands delineations, geotechnical reports. So we are working with them, and then internally to figure out what project, because we have about 3 or 4 that we could potentially apply for, which of those would give us the biggest bang for our buck in the industrial park area. And so I've already telegraphed that to LEAP, that they know that that's coming. They
Well,
offered to help us with that.
And LEAP knows about all the parcels that are right directly off the highway too, that
Yes.
aren't industrial park.
Right.
Cause those are big acreages. And we modified our zoning out there to be more attractive as well. So, yeah, I would love to have an update from LEAP, whether it's a council meeting or a economic development work session or you know, something. That would be great. Any other questions for Corey regarding the PowerPoint? No? All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Corey, I appreciate that. Moving right along, we did not receive any correspondence, so I'll just move right along to that department head report. Corey, anything else to add to your report?
Nothing further.
Okay, all right. Chief, you're way in the back.
Yes, nothing
Hi.
to report.
All right, thank you very much. Subcommittee reports. So I just wanted to say again, we did have a great DDA meeting. I was still a little bit under the weather, but I think I finally beat my month-and-a-half long illness. We had a great presentation on our boardwalk down at Old Mill Park and the grant that we've been funded for, which will help us replace that. I'd love to see that go out to council, if we could please. We have been awarded grant money that we'll be able to use in the spring, summer of 2021 for the boardwalk refurbishment, replacement. And so the other topics that we talked about at DDA is what else do we need to give attention to? Parking lots in the downtown district was a huge topic of conversation because we have the new beautiful parking lot on the southeast corner. We talked about the southwest corner behind the Barrett's building, D&W, and what we can do in that area. We talked about right directly behind us, this alleyway that needs some attention as far as water sewer. We also have a North Putnam Street project that's going to be coming up in 2023 with that road work and how we could possibly tie in parking lot to that road. And of course, our northwest parking lot behind the pub, the Sun, that area. So lots of good work at the DDA level. It was a good meeting. Did anybody else have any meetings this month? I know some of them have been canceled due to lack of agenda items. Okay, all right. We have another opportunity for audience participation, and I know that you're sticking behind because Councilman Smith has some questions for you. Council member comments, I'll start with Mr. Rhines. All right, Mr. Weiss?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Bellinger?
We had a great event this last Saturday at the Williamston High School. We had about 30 different clubs come and have booths to sit at and then meet and greet the public.
Nice.
So we sat as the Kiwanians and there were different groups and it was just a good time.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Bizzard? Mr. Smith?
Nothing.
Mr. Rowland?
All set, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to thank the scout troops coming in with their work on their loops, I think is what it's called now.
Belt loops.
Belt loops, I refer to badges or merit badges, and that's probably old school, but
That's Boy Scouts and that comes.
all right, well, I do appreciate both of them, both those groups coming in and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. That's such a great opportunity for them, and a great opportunity for us to see them busy in our community. It looks like maybe the bad weather's gone. I don't see any storms in the near future. I'll just say that, I'm not scared, as we all know. But just remember, there is no street parking from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. In case we do get snow, we do take that time to get out and clean our streets, make sure that sidewalks are cleared off. And I believe that is it for this evening, so I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting.